Okay, hang on, let me check. All right, so let's.
Ideas and knowledge, especially when you want to pursue
All
your
right, so can you
career
hear the
in the
audio now?
world of technology. So yeah, our
Oh,
topic for
Yes, sir.
today, it will be
okay,
about
thank you.
project management. So hindi siya more on technical, but I will also show you on what are the common standards or what are the steps that usually project managers use in their daily work or in how do they manage their projects in their daily life. So yeah, um, my topic right now it's entitled digitally managed projects with confidence. So we're gonna talk about specifically about project management. So as I said, hindi lang tayo focus about sa technology, about dun sa technical side of how to manage projects, but um, we will also tackle on how to be a good project manager and what are the steps on how to be a great project manager in in terms of handling projects and making your project successful. So yeah, magbibigay ako sa inyo ng confidence and just the basic ways kung paano kayo magkaroon ng confidence to be a project manager. So sa mga viewers ngayon na aspiring project managers, I think this is a good introduction for you kung ano ba yung mga dapat nyong ihanda to be a successful project manager. Right. So before we go on our topic, so mapapakilala muna ako. So I'm Seiji Villafranca and currently I'm living here in the Netherlands. So yun, unfortunately, we have difference in time zone, so I cannot join you live today in our session. But tomorrow I have another session. I will be joining live and it's about SQL Manager. So if you want to attend that, guys, kita-kits tayo tomorrow. So yeah, I have my own website, cgvillafranca.com. So it's actually my personal portfolio. So some of my works are there about web and mobile development, and not also my portfolio, but I also have contents and tutorials there. Ngayon, medyo napatigil lang ako because I focused on my book. But if you want to learn more on web and mobile and specifically programming, so you can visit my website. And other than that, I also have my repository which is connected to my contents. So you can pull my codes. It's open source. So if you want to learn about web development, so I have examples in my GitHub. So right now I'm also a Microsoft MVP. So what I do as a Microsoft MVP, one example is this one. So I teach students and even professionals about Microsoft products and technology. So I focus on the developer technology side, but other than that, I also teach the tools such as in tools in using project management, using development. So marami akong tinuturo about Microsoft. And also I'm an Auth0 ambassador. So Auth0 focuses on security. So other than teaching development tools or develop about programming, so I also teach security standards and security practices. And right now, I'm also a community lead of Angular Philippines. So even though I'm here in the Netherlands, I still manage a community in the Philippines, which is Angular PH. So what we do is I organize events, seminars, and workshops for the students and even professionals. And lastly, I'm also an author of a book. So my book will be published by this October. So hooray for that one. And yeah, it's also about web and mobile development. So yeah, I have many things that I'm doing right now, but it's all of the things that I'm doing. It's related to technology. So yeah, my passion is about technology. When you see on the things that I'm working and I've worked on. So yeah, I've been talking to several events, workshops, and seminars already. So yeah, if you will ask me how many conferences or meetups that I've talked or I've been through, so I cannot answer you that question because marami-rami na rin akong napuntahan. So these are just some of the talks and the conferences that and communities that I've talked and or I've been to. So yeah, marami-rami na rin akong napuntahan. Okay. Excuse me. So yeah, um, right now let's go on our topic. So before we dive in dun sa mga um, topics or dun sa mga details na ituturo ko sa inyo. So first, I want you to know what will you expect and what will you will learn today in our present in my presentation. So the first one is how the industry handles project management. So two is the types of project management. Three, the tools to use, and the four, the tips to handle your project better. So as I have said a while ago, we will not focus more on the technology. So meron tayong technology side, kung ano yung mga tools na gagamitin natin. But other than that is ano yung mga steps or ano yung mga standards na ginagamit ng project manager to be a successful project manager in terms of managing your projects and how to handle your projects and how to handle your team. So we will focus more on the development of the project manager itself. Okay. Okay. So in project management, kung tatanungin ko kayo, ano yung una nyong maririnig or ano yung una nyong maiisip na words when it comes to hearing the word or hearing the um, the field project management. So the first one is charts, di ba? Kasi why? Project management is an idea of reporting or idea of presenting data. So isa yan sa mga critical part. So that's the first word that you will see in your or that you will think of when you hear the field project management. Second one is agile. So ito is more on sa mga developers, but right now Agile is not just used for other developers, but also on other projects as well. So Agile is a type of project management that is commonly used right now, especially in the world of IT. Scheduling. So yeah, scheduling is the one of the most important aspects in project management. Um, to be able to be a successful project manager, you should be good in terms of scheduling tasks, responsibilities, and the deadlines of the team. Scrum. So, Scrum and Agile, so same siya. Ito yung commonly na types of project manage or project types of project management na ginagamit. So, it's commonly used also in the development processes and organizing. So basic word, so organize. So if you want to be an aspiring or a project manager, so you should be organized. You can not just in time, not just in scheduling, but also organize on how you make up or how you categorize your tasks, your responsibilities, how you assign to teams. So organize is also one of the most important um, aspects or characteristics of being a project manager. So task, yan. Common din yan. So if you have a project, surely that you will have several and complex tasks. So ito yung isa rin sa mga common na may isip nyo na word when you hear the field or when you encounter project management. People. Yeah, so a project manager, it's the acting leader of the team. So you should know how to deal with people. So you should be a leader. You should be um you should be the one to handle your people, and especially you're the one responsible for making your people to function. Okay. So, yun yung mga maririnig nating words for project management. So, project management, it deals a lot. So, it's not just about knowing the technical side, but it's also knowing about um, your responsibilities for the team. So, yeah, critical ang pagiging project manager, and it's one of the difficult positions that we have in the industry. So marami talagang aspects na kailangan matutunan. So facts first, I have a fact in in the industry. So more than 50% of the projects fail. So biruin niyo yun, half sa buong mundo ng mga projects is nagfi-fail. They don't succeed um, they might have many problems because of that. So possible na ang nagiging root cause din is yung project manager when it comes to this one. So 70% of IT project fail significantly that they could bankrupt the whole company. So if in the world of IT, so kapag nag-fail yung project ng IT, there's a huge chance that you can bankrupt the whole company. So it's really critical. So sino ba yung naghahawak ng mga projects? So it's the project manager itself. So in that case, excuse me, 9.9% of every dollar is squandered due to poor project for performance. So even though one project fails in the company, it can cost the whole company itself. So ito, the IT, so it's very critical in a department. So it can affect other departments. So sa statistics also, so 9.9% of every dollar ang nawawala. So just in just a poor project performance, it can drain down your capital and even your income. So
Siyempre,
nagkakaroon ng tendency na mababankrupt talaga yung company natin. So, why does project fails? Because project managers fail. Bakit nagfi-fail ang mga project managers? So, number one is knowledge. It can be a lack of knowledge. So, hindi sila well equipped. So, they become project managers but they don't have the enough information or the trainings. So, ito yung mga pwedeng number one possibility na bakit nafe-fail yung mga project managers. Number two is preparedness. So, it can be connected to the knowledge. So, hindi sila nakapag-prepare when it comes to trainings. So, wala silang enough knowledge and experiences. So, they don't know how to manage the project well. Number three is decisions. So, project managers takes a lot of decisions when it comes to handling projects. So, if you have wrong decisions that you implement, so ito talaga yung magkakos ng failure ng project. The number four is the objectives. So, what do I mean by objectives? So, if your project doesn't have a clear objectives and it's not prepared or it's not crystal clear, so there's a really huge chance for your project to fail. So isa sa mga importante for having a project and for handling a project as a project manager, you should be clear of your objectives because these objectives, these are the information that you need to relay rather on your team. So if you have a single clear objectives, so the communication is smooth and at the same time you will have a teamwork um, in your uh, in your people. So objectives is really important. So stating your objectives is also one of the critical factors in terms of having a successful project, right? Excuse me. So project management. Everything goes wrong if the PM does not plan things well. So project manager, um, he's like the leader. So he actually not like the leader, but he's the leader of your entire project. So if he fails, um, for to plan things or to prepare things, so everything may go wrong. It's a domino effect. The next, project management is really crucial. So we just in the IT world, kami, for example, we just don't develop things. So we just don't build, and build. We just don't write code, but everything is planned. So it needs project management. So we don't just pull tasks out of our Kanban boards, but we pull tasks based on its priority. So pinaplan namin siya ng mabuti para ma-meet namin yung mga requirements. And lastly, it involves strategy, decisions, and leadership, not just the tool we use. Yes, possible na meron tayo ngayong mga sophisticated and complex tools that will help us in building or in managing projects in an efficient way, but we still need to be equipped with strategy and decisions, especially leadership. So kahit gaano pagaganda yung um, yung tools na ginagawa natin, kung wala naman tayong enough or well-equipped knowledge, is hindi natin ito magagamit ng maayos. So yeah, we often hear project management, but you should brace yourself. Project management is not that easy, right? So in a summarized phrase or in a summarized description, so project management is planning, organizing, and managing resources to achieve a goal. So bakit ba tayo nagma-manage ng project? It's simple. We need to achieve a certain or a specific goal. Okay. So why is project management crucial? So it is crucial. So sa nakita nyo kanina is dito talaga kasi nagre-rely yung success nung isang goal or nung isang project. So the questions here is, can you deliver the projects within the deadline? So um, if you want to answer this question, so project management can analyze this. So kaya ba nating i-deliver yung projects within the given timeline? So it can be helped or it can be answered by the help of project management. Then the second is, are the team functioning correctly? Excuse me. So are the team functioning correctly? Third is, our tasks organized to meet the correct requirements? And the fourth is crystal clear communication. So lahat ng mga questions na to and mga aspects is ma-identify natin to through the use of project management with its roadmap. So these are problems that can be solved in that can be solved with the use of proper project management. So yeah, project management is crucial. So kung iisipin natin is dati meron na rin mga projects nung mga around 1900s or 1800s. So paano sila naging successful and paano nila naitawid yung mga ganong klaseng project? So a little history about that. So since nung mga sinaunang panahon pa, so around 19th century, so we don't know, but project management already exists. So it's not that complex right now. Like we have, like meron tayong agile, meron tayong mga extreme programming. But previously, gumagamit na rin sila nun. They don't actually use some methodologies, but the base structure or the base methodology, so it's quite similar from what we have right now. So a little history. So in the late 19th century, a first truly large government project was the Transcontinental Railroad. So yung railroad, I forgot, if I'm not mistaken, it's from the US project. So it's around 1860. So it's really a large project from the government. So ang isa sa mga problems dito is yung making decisions. So malaking project siya, syempre, maraming workers, maraming resources ang kailangan, maraming time. So it really needs an accurate decisions or right decisions for the leaders or for the project managers to um to allocate the people or the resources or what are the tasks that needs to be prioritized. So sa paggawa ng railroad, uh, ginamit nila yung concept ng project management, but it's not really that complex. So yung decision making pa lang is it's like a base structure na of project management. Then next is the early 20th century. So this is around 1900s. Excuse me. So in the early 20th century, it's Frederick Taylor around 1856 to 1915. So he introduced the concept of working efficiently. So in other words, that's what we call the work smart, not work hard. So sa mga panahon kasi na yun, for example, meron kang malaking project or you have, they're planning to have a big project. Their solution for that one is to increase the work hours of workers. So, yun yung ano nila, yun yung pinaka-solution nila. So, for example, our regular hours is 8 hours. Gagawin nilang 12 hours yun. So, that's their only solution. But in the concept of Frederick Taylor, instead of increasing the work hours of the people, excuse me, so he introduced the concept of working efficiently. So instead of increasing the work hours, so the people should work smart, not work hard. So hindi yung time yung ina-allocate nila when it comes to building big projects. So um yeah, fun fact dun pala sa Frederick Taylor, if I'm not mistaken, this project was proposed by the battleships for the World War. So ito yung mga weapon manufacturing. So um, ito yung mga current projects na naglaran noong time na yun. So gumagamit na rin sila ng parang basic structure of project management. Right. So Henry Gantt also in 1856 and 1915. So he was actually an associate of Frederick Taylor. So kung mapapansin niyo yung pangalan niya, familiar sa inyo, the Gantt, his surname. So he actually created the Gantt chart. So isa yung ito yung mga commonly used na ginagamit ngayon lalo na sa scheduling ng project management. So he really contributed a lot when it comes to the concept of project management. So, anyways, um, it's about the Navy ship construction on World War One. Um, it's also a big project for the U.S. So he introduced the use of taskbars and milestone markers, which is ito yung Gantt chart. Okay, so this is really created a mark for the project management field since it's still used today and it's still very useful, especially in project management. So kung makikita nyo sa mga common na project managers is in order for them to illustrate the schedule or the status or the status of the schedule or the current timeline. So gumagamit sila ng mga Gantt charts. So it's really a big contribution for managing projects. Okay. So yeah, if you want to know their faces, that's Frederick Taylor and Henry Gantt. So since it's in the early 20th century, so black and white pa yung pictures nila. Yeah. Then next, around the mid 20th century. Okay, so other than the Gantt charts, so PERT charts and the critical path method were introduced. So in the military weapon systems and other complex projects for World War II. So it's sad to hear, but and makikita natin na yung project management is mostly nabuo yung structure niya or yung roadmap niya because of projects that is related to World War. So, yun kasi yun yung mga malalaking projects nila. So, madalas na ginagamit siya in manufacturing weapons, so the battleships. So, doon talaga nag-originate yung or doon talaga nagamit yung concept ng project management. So, it's kinda sad, but the the great part there is we're still using it, but especially it's not for war anymore. So we're using it also in businesses. Okay. Excuse me. So the theory and management of systems. So Richard Johnson, Fairmont Cast, and James Rosenweig, the business is like a human organism. So yun, nasabi ko nga, dati ginagamit nila sa for big projects and for big structures and creating weapon systems. So researchers, they created a book, so the theory and management of systems. So they stated that the business is like a human organism. So kino-incorporate na yung project management when it comes to creating or developing businesses. So yun, after the 20th century, nag-evolve na siya na evolve, and it's not just for that kind of projects like the world that is related to World War, but ginamit na rin siya ng mga industry and businesses to have more successful um, projects. So ginagamit na yung concept of project management in developing projects. So right now, all the processes, methods, and strategies that is being used previously in the 20th, in the earliest 20th century and the 19th century. So ginagamit pa rin siya ngayon. But it's more complex and some processes are combined. So it's still the same structure. The project manager still manages the project, puts together a team, and ensures communication between departments. So same pa rin yung structure. Project manager pa rin ang responsible for this task. So siya pa rin yung nag-mimic or siya pa rin responsible for scheduling the time or making the team um, to maintain the function of the team. Okay. So, ano ba yung mga methodologies today na ginagamit natin when it comes to project management? So, um, dalawa yung commonly used, but it's actually divided. So, the first one is the bottom-up planning. So, the bottom-up planning, so it's actually used for simpler project designs and shorter project cycles. So, ito yung mga Scrum, Agile, Extreme Programming, and Crystal. So, it's actually bottom-up planning. So, bakit ba siya tinawag na bottom-up planning? So, think of it as a triangle. So, mamaya makikita niyo yung graph. So, yung mga tasks is nanggagaling sa mga lower divisions. Then, tayo, for example, sa Agile, the team decides ano yung mga tasks na kailangan, ano yung mga tasks na kailangan nating i-achieve for this actual sprint. Then, it will actually go up to the higher levels or for example, the stakeholders to see ano ba yung mga tasks na na-accomplish natin. So, ganun si bottom-up. Then, the next one is the top-down planning. So, it's an enterprise-wide decision-making to build the portfolio of the organization. So, in other words, top-down. So, instead na sa mga lower divisions, for example, sa teams, nanggagaling yung responsibility. So, yung mga, or tasks rather, so yung mga tasks or yung mga requirements na kailangan gawin is nanggagaling sa mga higher divisions. So, for example, sa uh, mga board members or sa mga higher level, so sila yung nagdidictate ng mga requirements or tasks na kailangan gawin ng mga lower divisions. So, it's going from up to down yung task natin. So, to better illustrate, excuse me. So the bottom up, so you can see that task completed and sent to higher up. So yung mga tasks na completed or yung mga tasks completed from the developers and from the smaller teams. So it is actually distributed to the higher divisions. So it will be sent to the company-wide collaboration. So pwedeng sa ibang departments i-present. And next is the employee input. Then the top-down approach, it's actually the vice versa. So the task is delegated by the upper management first. Then the employees receive the specific task. So ito yung next na level. Then jobs are altered and completed based on the higher authority. So ganun yung difference ng top-down and bottom-up approach. Okay. So yeah, the goal of a project, bakit ba tayo gumagawa? Siyempre, gusto nating maging successful. So that's what we want to do. So yeah, paano ba maging successful? So sabi ko nga, it's not just about the tools that you use in order for you to manage a project. But project managers, they just don't um, they just don't use tools, they just don't build the project na napanaginipan lang nila, but they're actually following a blueprint or a roadmap. So this is what will I present to you. So this is just like a basic roadmap of what are the things that you can follow, or what are the tips that you can follow in order for you to have a better project management. Yeah. So project management roadmap. So building projects is like going to war. So sa war, hindi ka pwedeng uh, hindi ka pwedeng pumasok or lumaban sa war ng walang barel, ng walang armor or walang other resources kasi you will actually not survive with that. So it's like just it's common sense na you should always be prepared when you go into war. So number one, kapag lalaban ka sa gera, you should always plan. So number one is the planning stage. So there are actually steps in order for you to plan in managing a project. So the first one is initiate a project plan. Next one is communicate with your shareholders. Third is create and share project reports. And yeah, so these are some of the steps or some of the requirements, um, or some of the things that you need to do in the planning stage. So um, the next one is the scheduling stage. So you've already planned um, you've already planned the resources, the task, or what are the things you need to do. So you're done with the planning stage. So the next one is the scheduling stage. So scheduling stage, these are the time that you need to organize the timeline or the prioritizations or the priority tasks for your team. So you can should add the task, organize the task, add the people, and communicate with the team. So task and people are the two factors involved in scheduling. So you will need to know their capacity, at the same time the efforts or the difficulty of the task, and at the same time what's the priority or what are the critical tasks that we need to accomplish. So ito yung ginagawa natin mostly sa scheduling. Right. So, and another one is the project cost. So, pwede rin tong isama, but it's an optional. So, the project cost, uh, it can be on the scheduling, but it can also be on the managing side. Okay. And the last one is the managing stage. So, yep, you've already scheduled your project, natapos nyo na lahat, na-organize nyo na yung task, but it doesn't end there. So, your project should be sustained. So as the project goes on, gumagawa na yung team nyo, nagde-develop na. So you still need to manage them. So ano ba yung mga currently na ginagawa for the managing stage? So one is choose the right view for your schedule. Next is the track progress, resolve resource allocation problems, and create reports for status. So yeah, you need to track the progress kung inline pa ba tayo sa mga deadlines and requirements. At the same time, tama ba yung mga priorities when it comes to creating or accomplishing the task. Then also, sometimes in the process of accomplishing the project, so if you parang madalang naman na may mga project managers na walang na-encounter na problem in the current run of the project. So you also need to learn how to resolve the resource allocation. So hindi lang ito yung mga problems actually. So possible din na magkaroon ng changes dun sa requirements na makaka-affect ng other factors. Then lastly is to create reports for status. So when you are managing a project, you will see the status of your team, the project itself, the health status. So you need to create a report for a communication to the stakeholders. So it's really important in the managing state in producing reports. This is one way of for the stakeholders to understand na okay pa ba yung project natin. Yeah. Okay. Right. So a detailed explanation for each stage. So the planning stage has the initiating a project. So before starting a project, you must have, of course, an actual project. So syempre, hindi ka magiging project manager if wala kang project. So this is actually for the project managers that are really starting to have a project or to build a project from scratch. Okay, so the first characteristic of project, it should be a it should a project is a project if it has a beginning and an end. So, ang mga project is dapat natatapos. Second, it should be temporary and unique. The third one is it has clearly defined deliverables. So, one example of a project, it's a manufacturing plant. So, medyo nakakalito, but you might consider some a project, you might consider some not a project. But in this case, ang manufacturing plant ng mobile phones ni Samsung, so for example, nagbi-build sila ng manufacturing plant mismo, that's a project. But if the manufacturing plant is already built, tapos ang nangyayari is yung mga workers is mayroon ng nagma-manufacture na ng phone. So the manufacturing of the phone itself is not considered as a project. Why? Because it's a repeatable process. So sabi nga dun sa first characteristic, it should have a beginning, it should have an end. So hindi siya dapat repeatable, at the same time dapat temporary and unique. So that's the three main characteristics of a project. Okay. So yun, huwag kayong malilito doon sa ganong characteristic. So project must always have these three characteristics. Right? So in initiating a project, so we must also identify the project constraint. So it's very important. So sa mga nag-thesis guys, so you can consider thesis as a project. So kapag gumagawa tayo ng thesis, we don't actually cover everything since we have a short amount period of time. So maglalagay tayo ng mga project constraints when it comes to um, building it. So first factor, syempre yung time. So limited time span. So, kailangan natin i-consider to. Actually, this is one of the major reasons bakit nagpe-fail yung projects. So, hindi natin nasusukat ng tama kung ano ba yung capabilities natin, at the same time, kung kasya ba yung time natin dun sa mga features na kailangan natin i-accomplish. Next is the limited people and other resources. So, we should also consider our team. Then, at the same time, syempre, yung time din ng every team member natin. Excuse me. And lastly, the third one is the scope. So this is also the feature of the projects. So hindi dapat natin kailangan gawing sobrang complex yung project. At the same time, kailangan niyang makover lahat talaga ng mga features natin. For example, you have an AI or a machine learning project. So it can actually have a natural language processing. So it can understand English, but not necessarily it can understand all the languages. So kailangan ma-specify natin clearly kung ano ba talaga yung scope ng project natin. So dapat maging aware tayo dun sa mga capabilities lang. Okay. So constraints affect each other. So the people, the time, and the scope itself. So may magbagong isa dyan, pwedeng ma-affect yung ibang constraints. So, one best example is the people. So, for example, nabawasan yung people natin. So, syempre, mas liliit din yung time span natin. So, it's actually like a change management. So, kailangan talaga natin maging aware and kailangan natin maging responsible in terms of identifying this constraint. Para if ever may magbagong isa, is handa tayo or prepared tayo to adapt to that change. Right. Then, next, in terms of initiating a project also, is we need to identify the stakeholders. So, ano ba yung stakeholders? So, they are actually the one that will use the project or that will take benefit from the project. So, sila yung actually nagbibigay ng mga requirements sa atin. Okay. So, the first important thing is to maintain communication to make sure all objectives are aligned. So, simply, they're the stakeholders. They're the one that will benefit your project. So, you should always report to them and you should always have a clear communication if your project is still in line with their needs. So, stakeholders can have such suggestion or change objectives. So, sabi ko nga, nakapag-initiate ka na ng plan, nakapag-schedule ka na. But in terms of managing project, it's continuous because of the stakeholders, because they can actually have changes na makaka-affect dun sa buong state or buong status ng project. And yeah, as I say, communication is very important. So, hindi lang yan sa mga stakeholders, but also for the team members. For you to be able to continue the healthy status of your project. Right. So, tools for planning. These are just some of my suggestions, but there are actually a lot of tools right now that are being used for planning. So, sa planning, usually naman, if you don't like tech much that, so pwede naman kayo kumuha ng pen and paper. But um, the disadvantage of that one is if you lose your pen and paper, so it will be totally gone. So yung mga naplano nyo is nawala na. So if you want to access your plans or your list or your notes in the cloud, so you can actually use OneNote. So these are all the Microsoft products. So OneNote is you can list down the things that you want to accomplish, what are the drafts of your task, and at the same time, notes for your stakeholders. Then next one is Microsoft 365. So Microsoft 365, it's a cloud it's a cloud service. So you can access all your apps there, like the PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. So in order for example, you're traveling, or you're changing from one place to another. So ma-access niyo yung mga notes niyo or yung mga documents niyo that are written in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So it's it's served in the cloud. So your documents uh, are present in the cloud. And also personally, I use the to do. To do is actually a personal, but you can also write all your tasks or the things that or the notes rather that you want that you've retrieved from the stakeholders or your team. So you can also use that to do. Yeah. So these are just some of the tools that we use for planning. Okay. So organizing the thoughts. So paano ba tayo nag-organize ng thoughts? So um, we organize usually a large number of ideas. So kailangan din natin dito ng illustrations or diagram. So um, another fact. So mostly people learn or understand ideas in the form of illustration. So in for us to organize a thought or for us to present our thoughts more clearly, we can use different diagrams in presenting our ideas. So the first diagram, it's affinity diagram. So it organizes a large numbers of ideas into their natural relationships. So this is an example of affinity diagram. So this is still being used in for you to initiate a project. So this is just like a draft. So for example, meron na kayong mga tasks, meron na kayong mga ideas. So you can use the affinity diagram. So it's just like a tree na nire-relate nyo yung mga ideas or tasks um, with each other. So kung ano yung mga nakakonect, so they are the one related. So for example, you have a problem and you have the task. So you can also subdivide that task and add child level tasks. So you can use the affinity diagram on this one, right? So the next one is the interrelationship diagram. So interrelationship diagram is um, it's actually like similar of uh, from affinity diagram, but this is commonly used for more complex situations. So kanina tree lang. So ang relationship lang is like parent to child. Ngayon is yung parent, pwede mo maging child, yung child, pwede niya rin maging parent, and others, so pwede niya rin maging child yung ibang nodes. So this is actually used for more complex situation. And mostly, marami naman talagang complex project, so mas madalas ginagamit see interrelationship diagram compared to affinity. Yeah. So yeah, it's used for really understanding complex situations. Right. So the next is the matrix diagram. So excuse me. So it's same also. It's analyzing and displaying the relationship between data, but personally, it's readable compared to the interrelationship diagram because data is represented through tables. So makikita natin, for example, we have legends. So a Texas plant and a Mississippi plant. Texas plant, it's a large volume when it comes to Model A and vice versa, or in uh, other plants. So maraming klase ng matrix diagram, but I will not explain that. So it depends on the groups or the categories that you are trying to compare. But if you want to learn more about matrix diagram, so I've placed the reference or link here. So there are T diagrams, there are C and Y diagrams based on the groups or based on the number of groups that we are comparing. Okay, right. So another diagram that we are using, this is the activity network diagram. So kanina, more of task lang or ano yung mga relationship ng tasks like ang ini-illustrate natin. So for example, sa interrelationship and sa excuse me, affinity diagram. So ngayon is yung process na or yung draft ng process. So task pa rin siya but instead of the relationship of the task is pinapakita na natin yung sequence kung ano yung magiging sunod-sunod or yung sequence kung ano nung uh, paggawa ng mga task. So in this example illustration, so makikita natin na there's a start point, then ano ba yung mga dapat mauna na task before moving on the next task. So it's just like a simple draft of ano yung magiging flow nung development ng team. So it's just like a flow chart. So something like that. Okay. Okay. So the next one is the creating schedules. So we are done on initiating a project plan or creating our drafts for our project. So it's now time for us creating the schedule. So the first the things that we're usually doing in terms of scheduling stage is the first one is we organize the priority of tasks. Syempre, in terms of scheduling, kasama dito yung prioritization. So ano ba dapat yung mga mauna at the same time ano ba dapat yung mga less priority tasks. Then next is stakeholders are important. So andito ulit si stakeholders. So syempre, saan ba natin nalalaman yung mga priorities? So basically it's from the stakeholders. So kung ano ba yung mga requirements na mas binibigyan nila ng importance. So it's really important for them to have a communication. Then the third one is the tools. So maraming tools na ginagamit for the scheduling stage. So we don't usually schedule the tasks and the responsibilities manually, but there are actually many available tools that we can use out there. But in this example, so these are actually the two common charts that we use in terms of illustrating schedules. So the two charts are Gantt and PERT. So kanina, na-discuss natin about si Gantt. So it's from Henry Gantt. And the PERT chart, so this is actually also used in terms of scheduling. Excuse me. Yeah. So ano ba yung pinagkaiba nung dalawa? So actually, they're, as I've said, they're both used for visualizing schedule for a project. They're actually both effective, but they have actually different characteristics with each other. So the first one is the Gantt chart. It's actually presented with bar chart. So kung nakagamit na kayo ng Gantt chart, so it's like a bar graph, but it depicts the days or the duration of the specific task. So kung mas mahaba yung bar graph, So, mas mahaba yung duration ng task na yun. And on the other hand, per chart, it is represented with a flow chart. So, it's just like a network diagram. Then Gantt chart, it's used for small projects. Per chart, it's used for large and complex projects. So why? Because per chart, you can see the interrelationship of each task compared on how Gantt chart depicts the task in terms of in the form of bars. Then um, in Gantt chart, so actually in Gantt chart, it provides more accurate time, duration, and percentage, complete percentage. Compared to per chart, it you need to predict the time. So mas accurate in terms si Gantt chart in depicting the time duration. So and lastly, Gantt chart, sabi ko nga kanina, it's used for small project and less complex because it cannot display interconnecting tasks that depend on each other. So, the dependency ng task, hindi na di-display ni Gantt chart compared to per chart. So, yun yung isa sa mga major difference nila. Okay. Right. So, the major question there is when to use Gantt. So, the first one is when you want to forecast the amount of time to complete a project's task. The next one is see the progress of the task and also want to track the resources. And yeah, so dapat may isa pa to. So it should be used when you have less projects since hindi naman natin kailangan yung mga interdependency ng task. But yeah, kung gusto mong uh, matrack yung resources at the same time you want to see the progress of the task but not the interrelationship or the dependency, so it's better for you to use the GAN. Okay. So this is an example of a Gantt chart. So in Gantt chart, so nakita natin yung mga divided tasks. So it displays the start and the finish time, the date, the start date or the finish date, and also we can check the duration. So for example, it will take 3 days for the task one to accomplish, and the good thing also with Gantt chart is there's a completed column that shows the completion of a certain task. So makikita natin kung ilang percent na yung na-complete dun sa specific task. Right. So the next question is now when to use PERT. So PERT diagrams or network diagram, so it is used to forecast the time needed to complete the project. Next is want to set the essential paths. And lastly, the tasks are interdependent plus more complex. So, kung mas kailangan natin makita kung ano yung mga dependent tasks with each other, so it's better to use network diagrams or PERT diagrams. Right? So, this is an example of a PERT diagram. So, makikita natin na it's like a chart or a flow chart, but the arrows depicts the dependencies of each task. It actually displays the same information about Gantt chart. So like yung ilang days yung uh, kailangan to complete that certain task and the start and the finish date. But except for the completion. So hindi niya pinapakita yung completion or yung completed percentage ng isang task. So, ang mga pinapakita niya is yung relationship or the dependency ng isang task. So, in this example, so task 4 is dependent to task 1. So, bago natin magawa yung 4, is kailangan muna natin dumaan dun sa task 1. Right? Okay. So, we're done on the initiating of the project and we're done on the planning, on scheduling the project. So, yeah, we've actually created the foundation. So, pwede na kumilos yung team. Meron na silang schedule, nakalatag na lahat ng task. And, yeah, you're done. You're done creating all of your needs, all of the resources, and all of the requirements for the team to create the project. But it doesn't really end there. So you're a project manager, so anything can happen. So kahit nandun ka na sa process stage, nandun ka na sa developing stage, is kailangan mo rin ng supervision ng team mo. So you need to sustain the project itself. So the three things that we need to do is we still have to communication with the team. Then we as a project managers, we need to create updates and reports. And the third one is we need to adapt for the changes that will happen to our project. So ito yung mga kailangan natin gawin when it comes to sustaining the project. So communication with the team. So kahit nasa developing stage na sila or kahit nandun na sila sa process of creating your project or accomplishing your project is we still have updates with them. So if they have some problems or when um they have some um delays with the project at the same time their capacity is not enough, so you need to have communication for them to be able to function. Then next one, syempre, the reports. So for your stakeholders also, again, so they need to also have an update. So in order for you to update them in a simple manner or in a better way, so we should need to create reports. So illustrations are very important. And lastly, the change management. So change management is actually a different topic, but it's also being used in project management. So anything can happen, sabi ko nga. So and any changes can occur in the process of accomplishing your project. So may mga factors na pwedeng mag-change through in the long run. Okay. So in the reports, ano ba yung mga current na ginagamit or ano yung mga reports na dapat nating i-present sa stakeholders. So, in the industry, some are not, siguro, yung iba, hindi nila man nila pinapresent lahat to. But these are the standards na ano ba talaga yung kailangan nating i-update sa mga stakeholders. So, excuse me. Excuse me. The first one is the project status report, health report, the team availability report, the risk report, variance report, and lastly, the time tracking. So, ito yung mga reports na kailangan natin ma-present sa mga stakeholders. And this is also important not just for the stakeholders and for us to analyze as project managers kung ano ba dapat yung mga kailangan nating next step na gawin. Right? So yeah, graphs to use. You're really familiar with this. So I will not tackle this on in a detailed manner, but these are just the graphs. So these are bar graphs, line graphs, dual axis chart, and area chart. But there are other graphs that we use in terms of presenting or illustrating data. And if you want to learn more about the other graphs, so you can follow this link. So illustrations are very important, so it should be clear. You can utilize these graphs, but make sure na ginagamit nyo ng tama yung charts or graph depending on the data you have. Okay, right. So you have the steps, you have the roadmap, you have the knowledge, you have the illustrations. Now is what you need is the tools. So, syempre, we are in the technology world right now. So, nag-emerge na yung mga tools, mga technologies right now. They're very advanced and complex. So, you do not need to create reports. You do not need to create schedules in a manual manner. So, we already have available tools in the market na pwede natin gamitin as to make our work more efficient. So, it's making our projects more efficient. So, these are very useful tools that we commonly use in the industry. Right. So for communication, we are using Microsoft Teams. So yeah, Microsoft Teams is very useful. Uh, and it's like marami siyang integrations, marami siyang features. So it's actually used in mostly in companies right now. Bakit? Kasi it can be integrated in development. So, meron siyang mga hooks na magkakaroon ng notifications when your build is successful or it fails. Then, um, it it's actually built for teams for collaboration. So, it also has an integration in calendars. So, marami siyang features that is useful for team collaboration. Then also, in other companies, they use Slack, and this is also Slack also offers many extensions and plugins that can be integrated in GitHub, for example. So it's really useful in teams, especially for development teams. So marami siyang integration sa mga development plugins. And Discord also. So Discord is not just used for games. So it has many features also and plugins that can be integrated in development. So may mga companies na gumagamit na rin ng Discord for communication. Then reporting. So one of the most used applications in reporting is Visio. So it's Microsoft Visio. So you can create flowcharts, graphs, bars, and reports by this application. So it's not free, but it's very flexible when it comes to creating visualizations. Then Power BI also. Power BI is for getting complex data or getting large data and converting it to reports. It's a very powerful application. So it's used for presenting data. So kahit galing yan sa mga Excel or sa ibang applications, so it can actually retrieve that data and convert it into a very useful illustration. And lastly, Excel. So Excel is ginagamit pa rin when it comes to creating charts and graph. So Excel is very powerful and has many functions that you can use in visualizing data. Right. Then management platforms. So there are many management platforms right now, but um, ang currently ginagamit namin, especially in my company. So we are using Azure DevOps. So this is actually a one-stop shop and a very useful management platform for devs. So it's um, like a one-stop shop na maraming integrations and um, plugins na nagagamit namin in terms of automating reports. So yeah, I can have a demo with this for Azure DevOps later. Um, para makita nyo kung ano ba yung ginagamit namin sa industry. So we also have Microsoft Project, Jira, and Trello. So Microsoft Project, it's actually a dedicated project management. So meron siyang mga integrated Gantt charts and also creating reports. And Jira and Trello, so this is also used. It's an alternative for Azure DevOps. So it offers also different integrations and project management features such as the Kanban board and other project management stuffs. Yeah. Okay. So for the development process, so as I have mentioned a while ago, so we are using Azure DevOps. So this is actually a one-stop shop. So it provides wide range of integrations and plugins and widgets for automated reports and customizable based on requirements. So ayun, marami siyang integrations na plugins, especially for development process. Kaya ito yung ginagamit namin for development. So it's very useful for us when developing applications. So ito yung mga madalas namin ginagamit in managing projects. So yeah, now na-discuss ko na lahat ng mga concepts ng project management and the tools. So I will give you just a short demo kung paano ba namin ginagamit si Azure DevOps in managing a project. Let's move on to our demo. So let's go to our Azure DevOps dashboard. Okay. So for you guys, for the developers out there, so if you're an aspiring developer or if you're planning to use the Agile or Scrum methodology, so Azure DevOps is one of the great choices for us to use in managing our projects. So just search Azure DevOps and go to the Azure DevOps service. So Azure DevOps, it's free to use siya. So if you want to use it for your team, I'm not sure lang kung ano yung limit ng project team members, but if I'm not mistaken, so I think it's around 5. So pwede kayong gawa ng sarili yung Azure DevOps if you have 5 team members. Right. So currently now I have a directory in Azure DevOps, but if you want to create your new project or your new directory, so just you can sign it with your new account or just have an account with Microsoft, and with that one, so pag pumunta kayo dun sa Azure DevOps na page, so it's dev.azure.com, so you will just have the first step there is to create an organization. Then after that, magkakaroon na kayo uh, ng directories. So the first, meron akong directory dito na Microsoft default directory and the other companies that I've worked for. So in this case, I have several teams. So in under several teams is meron siyang mga project. So let's use this specific team. So, ito yung gagamitin ko since meron na tong mga tickets, may mga backlogs na to na makikita nyo kung paano ba talaga siya gumagalaw. So, this is the organization. This is the list of organization that I have. So, pwedeng kayo yung gumawa ng sarili nyo and pwede rin kayo mag-join sa ibang organization. So, sa organizations, it can compose of one or multiple projects. So, for example, this MVP Seiji demo, it has 2 projects. And the other organizations like this one, the Jezreel, it has 1 project. So it can be like that. So it's a one-to-many relationship. So in organization settings, the organization settings, this is where we can actually customize our project itself. So the organization rather. So in under the organization settings, so pwede nating i-set yung configuration ng mga projects natin. So at the same time, pwede rin tayong gawa or gumawa ng mga bagong project under this settings. So one of the most important settings here is the, let's see, so the overview. Let's see the overview here. So not that, I forgot. Yeah, the process there. So the boards. So the process, dito natin pwede iset kung ano yung methodology na gagamitin natin for a specific project. So for example, we have a basic methodology. So the basic view is like just it's like a very simple view of a project. So sa basic, makikita natin dito na ang mga levels niya is just 3. So it has an epic, it has an issue, it has a task. So on epic, it's like it's a very large piece of task na pwede natin siyang i-divide. So it's like a very big feature na dinidivide into smaller tasks para ma-distribute natin sa teams or sa mga project members. So that's the definition of being a basic type. So that's the backlog levels. So it has only 3. So it has the epics, the issue, and the task or the backlog itself. So the agile. So our current project, it's under the agile view. So kapag tinignan natin yung work item type, so ito yung madalas na ginagamit natin. So in agile, there's a bug, there's also an epic. So a feature, it's a smaller version of an epic, but it's still big na dinidivide natin siya into tasks. So it's a specific feature na possible na meron pang ibang mas maliit na features na dinidetermine natin siya as a smaller task. So meron din tayong task dito. So Issue, these are the obstacles or the blockings in a specific task. And we also have a test cases, test plan, and test suite. So that's the levels of an agile. In Scrum, we also Scrum and Agile they're mostly the same. So we also divide tasks into bugs, into epics, into features. Impediments are also the issues and a product backlog item. So a product backlog item. So um this is also a kind of task. So mas malaking uh, it's it's a kind of it's a bigger version of task. So, hinahati din natin siya into smaller tasks. So, mas marami siyang, it's like a user story na pwede pa nating paliitin. So, that's a product backlog item. So, yeah. Next. And lastly, the CMMI. So, personally, hindi ko masyado nagagamit um, tong view na to or this process. But you can see the levels are actually quite the same but merong mga change request. So kung mapapansin nyo is ginagamit tong change request sa mga projects na nasa production na. So possible na merong mga other may mga applications na kailangan ng um, changes or kailangan ng other modifications based on dun sa features nila. So mostly dun ginagamit si CMMI. So yeah, we can actually by clicking the three dots, so we can actually directly create a new team project based on this view. So let's just use the existing one. So let's go back to the list of organizations, right? So the peel project, so when you click on it, so makakita tayo ng left panel. So nandito lahat ng mga features ng DevOps. So the first one is the overview. So the summary will just display kung ano ba yung status ng project. So it displays charts and graphs. At the same time, the current status based on how many tasks are completed, what are the remaining tasks that are still on work, and any other useful uh, statistics that the project has. So pwede rin natin i-customize to. So it also displays the description or brief explanation of what the project is. So in dashboards, so this is one of the most important part. So kanina, nag-explain ako na in handling or managing a project, so kailangan natin ng reports or kailangan nating mag-produce ng illustrations or charts or graphs para mas maintindihan ng mga stakeholders. So in this case, in dashboard, so we can actually edit or customize this based on the widgets that is present in Azure DevOps. So you can click the edit. So makikita natin na this is more a technical illustration or a technical report. So makikita natin dito yung mga details or data na gumagawa ng automated graph dito sa dashboard. So for example, the build history. So we can actually add that. So for example, yung build ba natin or yung health status ba ng project natin is puro success or puro fail. So makikita natin yun dito. Then also the burn down. So burn down is related to the capacity of the team. So we can also display that. And other widgets that are useful like the test plans, the work items, so ilan ba yung bugs versus dun sa mga features na ginagawa natin, and other useful graphs or data that we can analyze. So that's the dashboard. So when we add that, for example, the deployment status, excuse me. So let's done editing. So we can see that our dashboard, it has a widgets that contains graphs and charts. So this is actually the data is being retrieved on based on the performance of the team members at the same time on the build status. So marami pang ibang pwedeng gawin kay dashboard. So maraming widget ang available. So we can also configure it. So for the build history, so for example, marami tayong pipelines. So kanina ba natin siya tuturo? So in this case, meron tayong 5 pipelines. Excuse me. So yung 5 pipelines is we have two, three front ends. So this is 1, 2, 3, and one back end and one database. So for example, gusto nating makita kung ano yung status ng backend when it comes to build. So gusto nating matrack kung may nag-fail ba or ilan yung fails rather or ilan yung success build sa backend, so we can actually select that. Okay. So we can see that the previous builds, so 2020 pa tong project na to. So makikita natin na almost all of the builds were success. So there are no red bars. So nag-fail siya. Let's try again. Let's just reload. Okay, yeah. So makikita natin na success lahat ng builds dun sa pila backend CI natin. So yeah, the deployment status also will just also point it to the CI or to the pipelines. So let's see. So never mind that size. So sorry for that, but yun, i-ano natin siya sa pipeline. So try natin yung iba. So try natin yung front end naman. So let's, instead of the build, so ito-check naman natin yung status when it comes to deploying it. So let's try. Oops, sorry. Release pipeline. So kailangan din natin siya i-point sa release. So for example, may dalawa tayong environment. So the dev and the prod. So kung gusto nating i-check na deployment is for the dev. So this one. Okay. Kailangan isa lang. Yan. So gusto nating i-check yung deployment dun sa dev natin na environment kung may nagsasuccess din and fail. And let's save. So makikita natin na lahat ng mga deployments na nangyari and the previous deployment, so it's all success. So wala pa namang fail deployment. So we can also see that. And yeah, we can also use that. Same here. So kung gusto nyo rin makita yung front end naman, but sorry, the pipeline, front, then okay. Then gusto naman natin makita yung mga status ng prod. So we can also see that. So isang beses pa lang siya na-deploy sa production. So that's how we use the dashboard. So that's a very useful way of interpreting data based on the status of the team, the task, and at the same time the health status of our application. So we also have a wiki. So wiki is like documentation. So kung may mga gusto tayong documentation sa project natin, so this is a good way of placing it. So for example, we have some documentation how to set up your project, how to run your front end or back end in the local. So pwede nyo ilagay dito. So if you're not a technical, if your project is not related to technical, so pwede nyo rin kayo maglagay ng mga notes dito sa wiki. So it's really a good feature from Azure DevOps. Right. Excuse me. So next, the boards. So the boards is one of the most used feature in Azure DevOps. So makikita natin na ito yung ginagamit sa Agile and Scrum. So the boards has the work items, the boards itself, the backlogs, the sprints, and other useful features like the queries and delivery plans. So yung work items, so dito natin makikita lahat nung tasks na available para dun sa project natin. So if, for example, I'm a project manager, so dito ko makikita lahat ng mga tasks na ginawa natin or yung mga requirements na kailangan natin i-accomplish. So, oops, sorry about that. So sa new work item, so kanina pinakita ko yung view ng mga methodology. So sa Agile, ito yung mga specific tasks. So we have, or specific kind of task. So may bug, may epic, may feature, may issue, and may task. So if, for example, you want to create a bug, so so yeah, you'll just create a title. So this is a bug on the input. Then you will assign it to a specific team or a specific team member. So, for example, you want to assign it to me, then you can just have the description on how to recreate the bug or how to what are the specific details of the bug. Then yeah, it will be listed into the work item. Okay. So the work item is ang ginagawa nito, pinapakita niya lahat ng work items natin throughout the project. So ito yung mga all available work items dito sa project natin. So the next one is the boards itself. Okay. So the boards, it's the Kanban board or the what we call yeah, it's the Kanban board. So or it's what we call the swims. So dito natin makikita yung um task or yung mga stories na currently currently being worked. So or currently being processed by the team. So this is a view of a single sprint. So for example, ayan, makikita natin yung mga story. So nandito yung mga specific status nila. So yung new, nandyan. Ayan. So yung active, makikita natin kung it's like in a table manner. So madalas ginagamit talaga to sa Agile. Dati, nung wala pang mga digital like Azure DevOps, so ang ginagamit nila ng mga team sa IT or sa mga development teams is sticky paper. So minumove nila yon from one column to another. So for example, this one, the user queue, is still on active, meaning the team member is still working on it. So dito mas compared to work items is nandito pa rin lahat ng mga work items natin, but mas nakikita natin yung specific status ng bawat task. So for example nga, itong 108 task, so alam natin na active kagad siya since dito siya sa column na to. So if you want, for example, the user or the team member rather is finished, you can move it into the resolve na column. So this one, it's now on the resolve. Sorry. Mali pala. Naka-divide siya sa iba. So dun sa active, it means that this is on an active sprint. So mamaya makikita natin lahat. Excuse me. Makikita natin kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng active. So ano yung ibig sabihin ng nasa sprint. So but currently nasa active siya, meaning hindi pa siya on being processed or hindi pa siya ginagawa ng team member na naka-assign. But when I move it here, for example, I'm this team member, so I move it into doing, means this is already being processed. So that's the next column. So minumove lang natin siya na minumove para i-update natin yung status. Then example, if it's already done, so we will move it again to the done column. Okay, so this is actually 3 columns or that we are currently using, but in different teams, hindi to pare-parehas. So sa iba, sa team namin currently, so we have 5 columns. So meron tayong active din, then the done, then the code review, then the testing, and closed. So depende yun sa dun sa standard ng team natin or dun sa company. So hindi siya pare-parehas. So customizable yung mga columns dito sa Azure DevOps based on the requirements. So yun nga, sa amin meron ding testing and code review na nakadagdag dun sa column natin. So yun, ulitin ko, ang main difference ng boards sa work items is mas nakikita natin specific yung status ng bawat task. So nakikita natin mas visible dito or mas transparent dito compared dun sa work items na nakalist view lang. Right. Next is the backlogs. Right. So the backlogs, so dito natin nakikita ulit yung mga list of work items. But this is more detailed compared to the work items itself. So in this case, papansin natin, meron siyang mga dependencies. So, let's remove this. Okay. So, makikita natin na naka-divide yung mga task natin. So, this one, the one with the trophy, that's considered a feature item type. So, under feature, so marami siyang pwedeng maging user story. So, si feature is, think of it as the parent one in this case. So, si feature is sobrang daming sobrang daming task na pwede siyang i-contain. So under that one, meron siyang register user, meron siyang login. So this is for actually for the UI and UX team member. So nakahati yung user features na into user stories. But in other pag mas tinitail pa natin, in every user story, there's a smaller item type, which is the task. So, si register user, ito, excuse me, it's like a group of tasks na related to each other. So, mas maliit siya feature, pero pwede para natin siyang i-divide into smaller and more detailed tasks. So, dito sa backlogs, mas nakikita natin yung divisions ng mga item types natin compared dun sa work items. And also, in this case, we can actually assign, for example, in this register user, this story, we want this assigned to a specific sprint. So, for example, this is our current sprint. Medyo outdated na siya, but this is our current. For example, isipin nyo lang na 2020 pa rin yun. It's 6/29, so that's June 29 to July 10. So, if you want to move that story in the sprint, so we can actually do that. But yeah, let's actually just create a new sprint para mas mas realistic. So for example, we want the new sprint to be this day. Excuse me. Let's say 2022, then what's the date today? So it's September. So it's, let's say sprint is actually 2 weeks. So let's say 2019, then excuse me. Then the end is 30. So let's create a new sprint. Right. So our sprint 9, it's the current sprint now. So for example, may mga gusto tayong include sa sprint na to. So we'll just have to drag it. So let's drag it on the sprint 9, right? Then also, for example, syempre, sa time or sa resources, ayaw nating isama yung buong user story since marami siyang task sa ilalim. So we can also drag a single task from a user story. So for example, kunin naman natin yung task from wala bang developer task dito? Let's see. Let's just use this one. The app notification. Okay. So we can also actually drag a task. So instead of the whole user story itself, so for example, mas priority to instead of this one. So pwede lang natin i-drag yung specific task na yun. So we can now, in this backlog, we can backlog on feature, we can assign stories, tasks, and features in a specific sprint. Right. So that's the use of the backlogs. So it also has analytics. So what's the analytics? So it displays the velocity and the average work in progress. So the velocity is like it's like the average. It's not really the average, but it's like the performance of the team kung ano ba yung gaano ba karaming effort points yung nagagawa natin per sprint. So ganoon siya. So kung mas mataas yung velocity, ibig sabihin mas marami kayong na-accomplish na task. So this is useful for especially for project managers to determine kung kailangan pa ba natin mag-step up or at the same time, okay pa ba yung performance ng team. Right. Then lastly, the sprints.
task, but this displays all the available tasks in our project. But in sprints, same din. Meron din tayong mga columns with this one, but this actually displays only the tasks that we have included in the specific sprint. So, mas maganda yung view na to kapag gusto lang natin makita kung ano ba talaga yung mga dapat lang natin workan for these 2 weeks. So, ito yung mga dinarag ko kanina. So, for example, dinarag ko tong 1, 2, 3 na task. So, bakit tatlo yung task? Kasi yung buong user story yung dinarag ko. So, makikita natin yung mga current tasks under that user story. So, it's included in Sprint 9. Then, next one is the low fidelity design. So, in this user story, actually, dalawa tong task na nasa ilalim niya. But, kung naaalala nyo, kanina, isang task lang yung dinarag ko. So, that only task that I've dragged, that's the only one being included. So, yeah. Mas specified also dito yung status. So this is actually the right status that we are currently using. So we have used 4 status. So if pag dinarag natin to, so for example, this one, so the status will automatically change. So magiging active yung status niya. And yeah, if we also drag that, excuse me, so it's resolved. But it's still active. So, hindi nakasama kasi sa state niya, but it should be, dapat kasama sa state niya yung resolve. But currently, when you drag it into resolve, it's still in the active state. But when you close it, so it will automatically be closed. So, yun. Ito yung way para matrack natin kung ano yung mga status ng project and at the same time, ano na yung mga na-accomplish nating project or task rather in under some several user stories. Right. So that's how we handle Agile and Scrum in Azure DevOps. So that's just a very basic introduction. So we have other integrations in Azure DevOps such as repos and the pipeline. So I will not explain this more deeply because ito is more technical. But just to give you a background, so repos is like just a GitHub. So meron ding sariling repository si Azure DevOps. So if you want to create your repository, so you can have your repository in Azure DevOps. And if you are planning to deploy your app, so pwede rin siya sa pipelines. So meron tayong CI/CD sa Azure DevOps. So once, for example, you create a pipeline that will automatically detect if your master branch has changed. So meron tayong mga tinatawag na CI/CD na automatically be triggered kapag may changes and it will automatically deploy to our server. So pwede rin natin gawin yun. So yeah, we also have pipelines here. So we have existing pipelines dito sa Azure DevOps. But yeah, I will not explain this thoroughly. Right. So that's just a simple demo that I have for Azure DevOps. So kung pag gusto nyo pang matuto sa Azure DevOps, so they have actually some great documentation on what you can do. So for example, you can go here, just search DevOps Azure documentation. So we have a Microsoft Learn. So kung gusto niyo pang matutunan yung iba pang mga features ni Azure DevOps, so this is really a great document from Microsoft kung ano pa yung mga other services that you can use and you can utilize with Azure. Okay, yeah. Alright. So yeah, ito yung mga features. So ito lang yung some na mga na-discuss ko with Azure DevOps, but if you really want to dive in the technical side, so you can build and deploy your apps with different with different languages and framework. So pwede rin natin siya ikabit sa Azure portal.
That's it for my short demo about Azure DevOps. So yeah, it Azure DevOps is really a good product or tool for you, especially for those who are doing development. So yeah, if you are an aspiring developer or gusto pang matutunan, yeah, uh, feel free to explore the documentation of Microsoft since nandun na lahat and kompleto na yun. And yeah, I hope you learn a lot from my talk so about the project management and for the aspiring project managers out there. So this is just a basic introduction, but you can use it as a guide or as your blueprint kung saan ba kayo dapat magsimula when you want to pursue the project management career. Right. So yeah, guys. Unfortunately, hindi nga ako naka-join sa inyo live today, but you can actually contact me in seijingvillafranca.com. So I have a messaging feature there, and also if you want to learn more about not just in project management, also in web and mobile development, so you can check out my GitHub, and if you want to have a chat with me, so you can connect with me on my FB, so it's cg.villafranca. And yeah, I also do mentoring. So I do mentoring on programming and web development. So yeah, I can mentor you. Just contact me anytime. So yeah, I will be in touch with you. Okay. So yeah, thank you once again, guys, and I hope to see you soon, and especially tomorrow. So I have another session, and yeah, thank you again, and happy learning. Right.
Okay. So again, even hello guys, good afternoon ulit. So how's the learning so far? It's very informative, right? Okay. Ayan, so even wala dito si CJ Villafranca, so we still award this certificate of appreciation to him. So again, certificate of appreciation proudly present to CJ Raf Villafranca for sharing his knowledge and expertise as a guest speaker during the 4th Philippine Skilling Summit 2022, September 29 to 30. So signed, Maria Lourdes Akisilan, OSC Director 4 for the SEDB, the SELCDB, Salvador Villasis, Executive Director of Cebu IT BPM Organization, Cebu, and Dale Pascual Jose, the National Security Officer of Microsoft Philippines, and Carl Leong, who is the Chief Partnership and Strategy Officer of Go Philippines. So again, guys, to all who attended this seminar, digitally managed projects with confidence, again, thank you so much for joining and for attending this track and for your feedback, guys. I already sent the link, so I'll be sending it again. And before we leave, and before the others, while the others are filling their feedback form, so kindly open your camera, guys, and for our class photo. Okay, so start to open your camera now. Okay. So, isi-send ko din kaagad yung ating picture on the chat box for you to see it as well. All right, come on. So, you can open your camera now. There you go. Lalagay ko kayo sa large gallery. For those who cannot open their camera, it's okay. And for those who are allowed to open their cameras, please feel free to open your camera. There you go. So I'm still waiting for the others. Okay, no worries. Yung mga wala pong camera, wala pong problema dyan. So, there. There you go. Alright, so nakita ko na po. Naka-load na yung mga faces ninyo. So, I think we're now ready. So, your picture is divided into 2 frames. Alright, at the count of 3. Dalawang picture po guys ha. I'll be taking yung pan lang. Normal lang na shot. Then after that, we will have a walkie picture. Okay, so at the count of 3. Okay, so tingin sa camera and put your best smile. So 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, hold on your smile. Okay, wala munang bibitaw. That's it. All right, so you can now release your smiling faces. All right, so let's. Okay, so i-copy ko lang saglit. And then I'm gonna paste it here. Okay, so bigyan naman natin ng pagkakataon yung iba on the second frame. So there you go. I'll be sending the first picture now. There you go. So here. All right. So you're nasa second frame. Come on. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Smile, guys. Okay, hold on. All right, there you go. All right, so send ko ulit. And let's have the last shot. So, okay tayo doon. So, let's have a walkie shot now. Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna copy the second picture and I'm gonna paste it here. So, lapit na po, guys. Go. Then after this one, please go back to our plenary hall. Okay? So, frame 1 ulit. So, let's have a walkie picture. All right. At the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Smile, guys. Hold on. Okay, there you go. All right. So, ayun po. Okay. I'll be sending this again. So, second frame, let's have a walkie picture. All right, I'll be sending the link for the plenary. Hold on. So, after po natin picture. Okay, so on the second frame, last one. All right, so walkie picture, guys, on the second frame. Hold on. All right, so 1, 2, 3, smile. There you go. Hold on. Wait lang po. Okay, there you go. Ayan. So, wait lang po, guys. Thank you so much again for attending and hold on. Isisend ko po sa inyo, guys, yung link ng plenary. Wait lang po. Okay. So, mabagal lang. Hold on. I'm gonna paste it already. Oops. Wait lang. There. Yes. Okay, so again, I'll be sending the link po ulit. Uy, bigla na brown out daw. Ano na? Medyo bumabagal ang ating laptop as of the moment. Paste natin. Hold on. I'll be sending the link now for the plenary. Again, for the certificate, guys, kindly go to the PSS website. No? I guess you already have an account there. Okay, so actually meron po tayong separate na feedback form doon. So you may just want to fill up that. Tapos pag na-fill up nyo na po yun, and then that's the time that you can okay, that you can receive your certificate. Okay? Tingnan ko Wait lang po, medyo mabagal lang. Hold on, bear with me. Hold on. Ito na po. Okay, so let me close my camera now para medyo bumilis-bilis ng konti. Okay, yung ating connection. There you go. Having some technical issues as of the moment. Yeah, you can now leave but go back to the plenary. I think meron pa tayong mga announcements to be para malaman natin paano yung magiging. Ito na, sisend ko na po yung plenary. Ito na po yung plenary, guys. Link ng plenary so you can join now. Okay? Okay po. So pwede na po kayong mag-leave and please go now to your plenary link. So I already sent the link, guys. Thank you so much again and have a great day. See you again tomorrow po.
Hello, everybody. Just want to check if you can hear me.
Yes, Carl, you are audible.
Okay, thank you very much. For all of everybody in the audience, sorry, we're having a bit of technical difficulties, so I'm going to be presenting while our team is fixing the video of Michael Goldsmith. But anyway, I'll just, can everybody see my screen now?
Yes, Carl, but perhaps you can try doing it on presenter view.
Okay, good. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl Leong. I'm currently the Chief Partnerships and Strategy Officer of Go Philippines. And I'll be presenting the development journey for students, for professionals undergoing the Go Philippines platform or participating in the Go Philippines platform. So, what is Go Philippines? Go Philippines is a mission-driven social enterprise operating a Smart Nation program, and we deliver education, healthcare, finance, employment, technology, and other critical services via a suite of e-commerce platforms to improve the quality of lives of Filipinos and for the overall growth and development of the Philippines. Our motto in Go Philippines is "No one left behind," and this basically, um, you know, determines our behavior as an organization and how we deal with people. So education is the driving force behind all our efforts as it provides the most comprehensive and impactful channel into the lives of Filipinos. We are a public-private coalition, and our programs empower both the public and private sectors with financing, technology, and operational guidance to prepare communities for digital solutions and smart tools, foster smart government services, empower businesses, and improve the quality of life of Filipinos. So these are some of the important milestones for Go Philippines. We were conceptualized around June, July of 2019. That was when we were organizing. We organized an economic forum, an international economic forum, where we gathered the best minds from people in the region and even from the United States. And we were talking about how to address the educational crisis in the Philippines. And so that was basically when we were conceptualized. We hit the ground running in February of 2020, right before the lockdown, and that's when we ran the pilot program in Angeles City, which is basically, our being positioned as a smart city model for the Philippines. Angeles City, Clark, right? And by October 2020, Microsoft decided to adopt the Go Philippines platform for the nation's largest skilling initiative ever. And by December 2020, DICT decided to partner with Go Philippines to deliver a skilling platform for all national government employees, all 1.7 million government employees. I'll highlight some of the other milestones. In January 2020, we launched the Cyber Safe Learning Program, basically initiated to transform millions of Filipino non-digital natives into active users of the global digital economy. So we've already started our globalization. Starting early this year, we've set up offices in Malaysia and Sri Lanka. And for next year, we're preparing to set up offices in 8 additional countries, which are mainly countries in the ASEAN plus India. So by the numbers, the total available market, or TAM, of Go Philippines is 98 million Filipinos ages 5 to 70 that can use computers, laptops, tablets, and mobile phones to access education and essential community services. So these may be, like kindergarten kids learning how to, let's say, do simple math or learn basic English through Go Philippines Kids, which is a platform or a e-commerce site we're going to be launching very soon, right? So it's very exciting. We're going to have a lot of interesting content for kids ages 5 to 12 years old. We also have a lot of content for other students and professionals as well, right? And to date, we have about 10 million plus reach with 11% month-on-month growth. We have 40,000 unique active users monthly. And in our platform, we have about 1,000 curated course modules. And in these course modules, the prices range from $20 to about $750 per course and accreditation. We currently have about 28 full-time staff. So in terms of existing network partnerships, we've got partnerships with 44 national government departments hosted by the Department of Information Communications and Technology. Partnerships with 1,488 municipalities hosted by the DILG. Partnerships with 16,000 public schools hosted by DepEd. And partnerships with 8 professional associations like SIBO, which is one of our major partners in this event today. We also have large partners, Fortune Global 500 companies like Microsoft. And lastly, we've got partnerships with 300 plus higher educational and technical institutions like the University of the Philippines. So we currently have about 30 plus national programs that address key sticky pain points in Philippine society. We've got our Cyber Safe Learning for Education project, or CLEP. Basically, this introduces non-digital natives to the digital world. We've got Skills for Jobs Learning Pathways project, which provides soft skills for unemployed and marginalized Filipinos. We've got the Prime project, which heightens English language skills for improved competitiveness. We have, of course, our flagship Philippine Skilling Summit, or PSS, which delivers technical and role-based training for professionals. We have an ITBPM job matching project, which funnels newly skilled talent to the offshoring community, around the world. And lastly, we've got the Technology Innovation Transfer and Commercialization Project for startups and entrepreneurs. We're doing this pilot program with one of the state universities here in the Philippines. In terms of the services transactions that can be availed off on the Go Philippines platform, these are some of the services that you can avail of. We've got student assistance in the form of low interest student loans, scholarships, and grants. We've got online courses, government and professional accreditation. We even sell technologies like laptops and internet service, basically to further the education journey. Because what's the use of having a motto of no one left behind if many people in the province, the no income and low income Filipinos, don't have tools, gadgets, and access to the internet to catch up in this digital economy, right? We also have personal and business lending for short-term and long-term needs. And lastly, we have our career center, which is basically a hub where Filipinos can, rely on certain tools to improve their application for jobs. They can access a resume builder and all that good stuff to prepare them for their next career or their next job. So I just want to highlight some of the services that I just mentioned. So for education, if you go to the Go Philippines platform, which is already live, but not all of it is live yet, but you can already go to the website. So these are some of the tabs under the education services of Go Philippines. So you've got courses, learning paths, and accreditation. So for courses, you click on that and you'll be able to browse through the 1,000 plus courses we've already onboarded or uploaded onto the Go Philippines platform. If you click on browse all courses, you can even refine your search with different parameters, so it's easier to search for what you're looking for. So think of it as like the Google for education training, right? So we're putting all of these content, education training content, not just from the Philippines, but from around the world, putting it in the Go Philippines platform. And this basically makes it easier for everybody trying to get an education, search for an education or training. As I mentioned, we will be launching Go Philippines Kids soon. This is what the webpage looks like. We haven't launched it. We're going to launch it in a few weeks. And we've got 2 featured content on Go Philippines. One is Moji Time, which basically it's a Swedish company that provides gamified education. So kids can basically, play games, but at the same time learn mathematics, learn memory work, learn English. And we have this other company we partnered with. It's by Infinity 8 Productions. And they've got a comics called Noella. And what they've done is basically they've collected all of these different studies from the top universities in the US, like the Ivy League schools, and distilled that information into comics so that kids kids can learn about climate change and how to protect the environment. So this Noella comic series is actually supported by the United Nations. For accreditation, if you click on that, basically you'll be able to search the different accreditations we've already onboarded onto the platform. It's also connected to the Philippine National Accreditation Center, or PNAC.